Hi, it's Anne. Thanks for stopping by. Well, it's a letter of the week time. We're doing the letter N today that we chose in our random drawing. And we're going to be talking about necessities. Necessities for making very successful junk journals and paper crafts out of things that you would otherwise throw away. And so many people have asked me, oh, I'd like to get started in that, but you have all the equipment. I don't have any of the equipment. And the thing is, when I start thinking about it, you really need so little to get started in this craft, in this art. And so this is a video that if you are just starting, I think that this might be useful to you. But if you're a seasoned junk journaler, please stick around, because I would really love to know if the things that I list are necessities to you, and add your own those must-have items in the comments, because we can all learn together, and everybody is going to think of necessities in a different way. I kind of split my list into a couple of ends. We have the necessities. We're going to have the niceties too. Not all the niceties, because you don't want a whole tour of my whole craft room, but I listed out some that would be the next level of the things that are really nice to have. And then if we have time, I might get to some of the things I never use. Speaking of a third N, never, or maybe never again. I don't know. Let's just get started. I'm going to show you, we're not doing a project today, but this is sort of the inspiration for it, because I take this when I teach a junk journal class every now and again, and for people that are completely unfamiliar with it. And this is a lovely, lovely little journal that I keep for demonstration purposes, and I made it entirely out of junk mail, stuff that came over the transom that I didn't ask for. So junk mail, envelopes, a seed catalog, some other stuff. The only things that I needed, in addition to the junk mail paper, were glue and some thread to bind it, and a little piece of seam binding to hold the whole thing closed. But you could use an old shoelace for this too. But it's just amazing how just using junk mail that we open up to see to use the inside of, what nice journal space this gives. This is not fancy at all. It's just a nice little journal. We have little pieces from some of those little magazines that come in that can be little journal cards. And there's just a lot of good paper that comes free into our lives that is fun for us to use. And that really sets the tone, I think, for this necessities video. So the first thing on my list, of course, is paper. That's not rocket science. You might think, oops, sorry, I bumped you there. Good old copy paper that you have in your printer, waiting to be printed on. Rescue that, and we do lots of things with that. Any kind of plain paper. This is wrapping paper, but it's plain on the back. Use old file folders. That's a wonderful paper item. And of course, junk mail. Just start assembling some of the paper in your life, and you've got a really, really good start on making very wonderful junk journals. The next thing that's an absolute necessity is glue. And I have only 3 types of glue that I use. People ask about this all the time. Art glitter glue, there's no glitter in it, but apparently it was manufactured to actually adhere glitter down because it was so good. It's a wet white glue. And it dries clear. It's a fairly pricey glue, but if you get it in the larger quantities like this, it can't be beat. This is for gluing slightly heavier papers. If it's thin papers or napkins that I'm drawing or that I'm adhering down, I use a glue stick. You may have become aware of a recent relationship change that I've had regarding my glue sticks. I used to be in a relationship with Yoo-Hoo. Well, a long time ago it was Scotch Creates, but that's ancient history. Then I was with Yoo-Hoo for a while, and we got along really well. And I thought we were fairly serious, but then I met the Derice glue stick. We've been seeing each other, a while. It's still fairly new, but I am quite smitten with Derice. The more time we spend together, the more fond I become of the Dries glue stick, and I like the fact that it's a lot less expensive than the Yoo-Hoo. So Yoo-Hoo and I are still friends. I'm going to use up the Yoo-Hoo I have, but I'm thinking that my commitment is going to be more to Dries in the weeks ahead. So anyway, or in the months ahead, maybe years, I don't know. You never know. Nothing maybe is forever, but Dries is high on my list right now. And of course, you know, if you're gluing any kind of textiles down or lightweight metal items, you're going to want to use the Beacon. My price tags, you can see how much I paid for this. Again, it's a pricey glue. Yeah, made by the Beacon company. 3-in-1 is the name of this particular bottle, but the same formula is also marketed as Fabri-Tac or Fabri-Fix. So this is what works if you want to glue fabric down onto paper, or you want something, you have like a heavy, like a spine, that you're going to glue into a cover, something heavy that goes onto a cover. This is your heavier duty glue. These are the only 3 kinds of glue I have. I know some people have that super heavy duty stuff. Maybe they like hot glue guns. I don't use any of those to adhere. Though that's just my triumvirate. There is the Dries glue stick now, art glitter glue, and 3-in-1. So that's absolutely a necessity. This list might be handy to you as well if you're maybe packing a little sub kit of craft supplies to take camping or to take on vacation or a road trip, and you're thinking, what do I take with me? Thinking in terms of necessities might be useful to you too. The next thing we need cutting tools, and I have some of the paper trimmers. I have a small desk size one. I have a larger, the guillotine type. But those are nice to have. In terms of absolute necessity, I can get by with just a craft knife, and this is just like from the hardware store. You can get them in multi-packs and refills of the blades. They're very easy to use. I have some larger scissors too, but for absolute necessities, oh look, they're color coordinated. I didn't even know that was going to turn out that way. The cutter bees, I've been talking about the cutter bees lately. They're just a really nice, small, very sharp scissor for fussy cutting, for snipping. And I put my aluminum ruler in the cutting tool category as well, because it's, you tear against it as well as measuring, and I would have a very hard time getting along without my aluminum ruler when it comes to any kind of paper separation. So these I consider my cutting tools. Those are necessities. Start setting stuff aside. Whoops. So I have room for more necessities. Also in the necessities category, I consider my bookbinding tools. This is an awl, AWL. You can buy bookbinding kits. This is this little awl is one that came in a kit that I got. It was a sewing kit before my grandson was born, and I was making some, homemade reusable diapers, and there's special snaps that you install on those diapers. You needed to poke holes to get those snaps through. I had this. I don't think that that an official bookbinder's awl is a lot different than this, but I believe in using what I have. An awl, or an awl-like product, again, AWL, is for poking holes in your signatures before you stitch them in. I consider my waxed thread to be a necessity for stitching my signatures in after I've poked the holes in, stitching into a spine. However, you don't necessarily need this wax thread. You can use dental floss, you can use embroidery floss, you can use a thin baker's twine. So just some sort of twine or thread that you can use to attach your folded signature of paper into your journal cover. You're going to want to do that. You can machine stitch, but that's a whole another realm of necessities and niceties. I really like the wax thread. I like the way it feels. I like the way it grips, and I just keep a needle, a needle always handy to actually poke it through. So necessities in in terms of bookbinding tools. Set that over here. I hesitated about whether to put ink on my necessity list, because in this little, very basic journal, I did not ink any edges. This is very, very plain. However, I think I would really consider some sort of distress ink to be typically a necessity for me. Not an absolute necessity, which is why it's last on the list, but it really... it just helps you finish off the look of your paper. And it's specially formulated to kind of give that distressed look. It's not a good ink for stamping. Some people do stamp with it, but it doesn't give a nice, even stamped image. What it's really good for is putting on a little dauber like this, and then inking the edge of paper, you've seen me do this a million times, but look at that nice little edge there. It gives paper or anything else, it finishes off that edge. It creates a look that if it was sitting around in a damp pirate's trunk for 25 years, it would develop that look on its own. But we like to accelerate that process. I consider the ink to be a necessity. However, this little tool, these little sponges, like Velcro, on the tip like that, and you buy these separately. This looks like it's about worn out, but the Velcro is nice. But if you don't want to purchase one of these, you don't have to. You can use an empty spool of thread and just glue one of these little sponge daubers on top, and that gives you a really nice way to apply that glue. Those are the things I would consider necessities. Let's up the ante just a little bit and go through, again, if I were packing, and you've actually seen things in my camping kit, the crafts that I take along with me camping. You saw that last summer, but let me kind of show you as a refresher things that for me, and your mileage is really going to vary with this, but these are the things that I consider to be the niceties that I really want to have with me. I've worn off the printing on this, but this is a corner rounder. This is the best. I've had lots of corner rounders before. This is the best one I've ever had. This is a We Are Memory Keepers brand. They're very good on their equipment. And this is a 3-in-1. You can get 3 different shapes of corners. Let's go back to this little guy here. I like to use it upside down. There we go. You get that nice rounded corner. I can get just a slight angle, a medium-sized angle, and that's the largest angle there. This is so good for rounding the corners of your junk journal tags that you put into pockets, and things just slide into that pocket a lot more easily if they have a rounded corner. And it just finishes the look. It's just something I really enjoy using. So this is a real, not technically a necessity, but certainly a nicety to have. Another nicety you don't absolutely need, but I sure use it all the time, is a little bit of instant coffee. Now, would I drink this? I'm a big coffee drinker. Would I ever put this in my cup? I would not, because it tastes like swill. But it's very inexpensive. Get the cheapest stuff you can find and mix up a little bit of really strong coffee. And coffee dye paper, coffee dye your envelopes. Just, you end up, we all do this. It's super easy to do. And I would absolutely consider some instant coffee, inexpensive. The roast doesn't matter. Inexpensive, cheap being the operative term. Instant coffee for dyeing your paper, because that just opens up a world of possibilities and just gives you these wonderful sorts of organic splotches that end up on your paper. That I would consider a nicety that's almost a necessity. In adding to your paper collection, if you only had one book, we use lots of book pages, as you know. If you could only choose one book, or you had to travel with one book, I would take a dictionary, because several different reasons. One, the pages are nice and thin, so you don't get a lot of extra bulk when you're making your tags or your pockets out of this. Also, they're really thick. You can experiment until the cows come home. You're not going to feel precious or, oh, I can't use that, because you have, hundreds and hundreds of pages in a dictionary. You can rip them out and do all the experimenting that you want. It really frees you up to not be precious with your supplies when you have really a lot. I have one book that I really love that I got a couple of years ago, an old book, in Italian when I was on, Dan and I were on vacation with our friends Connie and Bill in Italy. And oh my gosh, that Italian book, I hoard that. I use it, but I'm just really, I want to use it only on my most special sorts of projects. And I'm making it last, but I'm kind of hoarding it. I don't hoard dictionary pages. You can use this as a glue surface. You can get in and cut out little illustrations. It's a great source of that. There's plenty of illustrations in almost any. Look, you need a baboon? You got one right there. You need to clip out the word baby to, for something, for a baby gift, it's gotcha. So anyway, have a dictionary. I would get a dictionary before I would invest in any other kind of book that you're going to tear apart and invest. I'm using that term almost facetiously because these are at every thrift store. I mean, you'll spend maybe a couple of dollars on this, probably less if you're at an estate sale. So a nicety, but a really, this verges on being a necessity. I think that's a dictionary is the first kind of book that I would get. Moving along, I think I would put a water brush on the niceties list too. These are little, I think you saw me, I've got ink on my fingers here just from that little bit of a demo, but these are just little plastic paint brushes that have, maybe I wonder if I can clean my finger on it. Look, it's handy for cleanup too. Nope, I need soap. Oh well. There's water that's in this barrel, and there we go. You just screw that off and you fill water at the tap, and it goes through when it's closed and comes out with these brushes. And it's just the handiest thing to have if you ever want to tear tissue paper or a napkin. Maybe you want to do a little bit of painting or a little bit of special. I use my colored ink with this a lot too, but sometimes I'll just rub that wet tip along the side of an ink pad. And just, I did that just, I didn't get a whole lot of ink on there, but it's very, very handy. So these are inexpensive, and I would put this on high on my list of nice things to have. They're just super handy. I keep one on my craft desk at all times. I would put stencils on the niceties list too, but boy, really high up there. I think some of these, I think this might have been a dollar store stencil. This might have been in some multi-pack that I got online. You can get whole stacks of them. But any kind of art supply store is going to have some kind of a stencil. I find them at thrift stores. I find them at estate sales if I'm lucky. And they're just very, very good to have using your inking tools to put a little extra decoration on a page. I keep going back to this, but there. Quick, easy embellishment. They don't take up much room. I see no reason not to have stencils very high on my list of things that I really want to have around. Another thing that I use all the time, and if you've been here with me for a while, I use circle punches, and I have quite a few of them. I get them at thrift stores. This belonged to somebody I don't know, 3/4 inch. I have a 1 inch. I have a 1 3/4 and a 2 inch one. The larger ones are the only ones that I've purchased new. These are Stampin' Up! Punches, and they're very nice quality, but I got them as a card maker. But I use them in my junk journals all the time. They're great for embellishments. They're great for, just anytime you want any kind of a circle. There's just a million things you can make out of paper circles. There really are. So very high on my, they're on my niceties list, but very high on that list. I would recommend having a few stamps around too. It's nice to have a little bit of a botanical stamp. You can see this is a thrift store, something I got for $1, but that was probably orange tags are half off day at one of my local thrift stores. So I'm sure I didn't pay more than 50 cents for this, but you can find these little, these little botanical, a little flower, a little leaf, a collection of those really goes a lot to really, towards really dressing up a junk journal. A script stamp, I don't even know where I got this. I'm sure I picked this up at a thrift store. It's been used a lot, but just putting a little bit of visual interest in a corner of a page with something that looks like old-timey script is handy to have. Here is something that is brand new, but I feel very comfortable putting it on my list of niceties, but yeah, I really am glad I'm going to have this because I thought a long time before I got this. You saw me use this the other day, and it's this journal. It's an acrylic stamp that's mounted on wood that just says the word journal. And I have been looking for something like this. I mean, I can't even tell you how long. Why I don't know why it's so hard to find rubber stamps that say the word journal. You can buy lots of digitals. I mean, I could put together with my peg stamp something that says journal, and I have done that. But I wanted something that's had sort of a typewriter font and with something that I could stamp on paper and then create that into, transform that into a topper for the front of a journal. I thought, why is that so hard to find? There's lots of us junk journalers out there. So finally, in frustration, I mean, just saying this is ridiculous. Why am I always, I'm always looking on eBay. I'm always looking, at the at thrift stores or different sources. I just went on Etsy and I found a custom stamp maker, emailed her, said, can you make me a journal, a stamp that's 3 inches wide, that says the word journal in a typewriter type font. She emailed back right away and said, yes, I absolutely can. And within a couple of weeks, less than that, I think, she sent me the proof and everything. And I'm going to be using this a lot. So I feel very confident having this, again, very high up on my niceties list. I am going to, I've since gotten her okay to share her information with you. And I will put the link below. Ariel Art Gift Studio. Ariel, A-R-I-E-L. Art Gift Studio. That's the name of her shop. There, to be honest, there's plenty of custom stamp makers on Etsy, but I was really drawn to her really good reviews, and she's in the UK, so that was like, oh my gosh, do I want to? Well, guess what? I get so much wonderful crafty inspiration out of the UK, from Tina and Carrie the Crafter and Sue and, Liz and all kinds of other wonderful YouTubers that are in the UK. And I thought, and you can pay like an extra $5 in postage and get something from the UK. So that was my small little statement. So thanks to the United Kingdom for their wonderful crafting environment. I'll put that link below. I'm just delighted with the quality of this stamp. Her communication was great. And, lots of places that you might choose to go. But don't let just a few dollars worth of postage stop you from that if you're delighted with this, because you can have it made exactly how you want it, whatever size, whatever font. I'm going to put this aside. Okay, the last N. What do I never use? I was talking to my husband, Dan, about doing this video over coffee a little bit ago, and I told him, I'm going to have the necessities and then things that are nice to have. And he said, you should do never. You should do never, too. So I said, okay. Came downstairs, looked around. There's not a whole lot that I never use. I mean, I really use everything that's in this craft room. I really do. But I did find a few things that that I think are worth moving out. And I would encourage you to do that too. One is this little, did I get this at the dollar store? I don't know. It's just this weird little, and I thought it was so cute. I thought, oh, I could keep little ephemera things, in here. guess what? It's opaque. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. I have absolutely nothing in it. And it's not useful to me. I have some little little boxes like this that I use all the time, but they're clear, they're translucent. I can see what's inside. This is not useful to me. So this is going to get moved out. Never use it. This is something else, and this is going to feel kind of like heresy because this is a Tim Holtz product. Obviously, I got this at Craft Warehouse on sale for $4. It's been in my drawer for years. It's just not my style. You know, they're little book plates that you can put on the front of a journal, but it's just, they're lovely. You know, they're really lovely. Maybe I'll, I don't know. I think I maybe have used one, but I very, very rarely even think to use a book plate that has this much hardware in it. So this is something I never use. I think, again, I always joke that, Tim Holtz has so much of my money. He got four of my dollars that day. Well, he probably got, 10 cents off of it. Craft Warehouse got the rest. But anyway, I made an impulse purchase, and yeah, it was just kind of dumb. Another thing, and this is one I can honestly say I have never used. I must have gotten this. I must have gotten it at that craft store because at the thrift store, because I can't imagine I would have actually purchased full price for it. But and again, this is a We Are Memory Keepers. I really like their products. They have really good equipment. It's a planner punch board. It has instructions. Have I ever had the patience to sit down and read? I just haven't. I just haven't had the interest to find it. It looks fiddly. There's all these like little things, in it. It's just, this falls into the life's too short category. If I'm going to make a planner, I'm going to make it the way I want it. And I don't need all of these things. It makes me think my mom, got a new sewing machine when I was a teenager because she'd been using the same old sewing machine for decades. And Daddy got her a new one for her birthday one summer, and she wanted to love the new one, but it had a lot of these like little, they were called cams, those little discs, that gave you different stitches. And it was just intimidating to her. And Daddy would come home and I would be the teenager in the basement sewing with the brand new fancy sewing machine, and Mother would be in the corner on her old Singer going, I just want to use my old one again. That's kind of what that thing reminds me of. Yeah. It's going to go to the thrift store next time I go. Instructions are with it. Somebody else is going to get some good out of it. So there you go. Those are my contributions for this week. Things that are necessities, things that are nice to have, and things I never use. Let's go ahead and choose. Oh, wait a minute. Record my important accomplishments here. I'm really having fun with this. Necessities. There we go. And yeah, that's the day this airs is going to be 6/29. So there we go there. What's next week going to be? Oh, the drama. Oh, the excitement. I'm really having fun just trying to choose unconventional things. I did kind of struggle with the end before I hit on the necessities. At first, I wanted to do something about Nebraska, because I'm always talking about my beloved home state. But I thought that was a little bit predictable for me, because I always talk about Nebraska anyway. All right. What is it going to be? Why? Oh, wow. Okay, this could be tough. I don't want to be predictable. Gonna have to think about this. That's it for now, guys. Let me know what your, if you did anything for the letter N. Let me know what. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.